The most expensive sauna in your house is the one you regret buying because there are so many different types of saunas, from wood-fired, infrared, electric, steam, smoke, salt, and more. And after 9 years of selling saunas across the US, the single biggest reason buyers regret their first sauna is they bought before they understood what they were actually buying. So in the next few minutes, I'll walk you through every meaningful type that exists, the pros and the cons, what it actually costs, and who it's for. By the end, you'll know exactly which kind belongs in your house and which ones to skip. Section 1. How saunas actually heat you. I want to clear something up immediately because almost every article online gets this wrong. A traditional sauna is not a dry sauna. It's a dry to wet spectrum that you control. So you set in it dry, and a little bit later, you ladle water onto the rocks when you're ready to make it a wet sauna. The actual traditional sauna experience is keeping it dry first to warm it up and wet second to push the heat deeper. The temperature range you're going to be looking for is somewhere between 170 to 200 degrees Fahrenheit. On a home install, you're looking at just under $5,000 on the entry side and up to $100,000 plus for a high-end build or a fully custom indoor sauna that's effectively a piece of architecture. Infrared saunas work on a completely different mechanism because instead of heating the air around you, it uses electric heat waves to heat you directly. It has a lower air temperature than traditional, but deeper tissue penetration. There's an important trade-off though for infrared buyers. It's also where the lowest price floor is set across any real sauna category. You can get into an infrared unit for under $2,000 and the high-end units run $15,000 to $20,000. But if you want both mechanisms in one cabin, you're going to need a hybrid sauna, which has infrared panels and a traditional heater in the same unit, with the ability to add steam on top. The premium over picking just one or the other is smaller than most people expect. Because hybrids run roughly $8,000 to $15,000, and anything under $3,000 claiming to be a hybrid is a scam. One thing before we move on, because people always ask, is a steam room a sauna? The answer is no, because humid heat from boiling water, marble, and tiles is a completely different category and a completely different experience. Section 2. What powers the heat? Now, the fuel source changes three things: the installation, the ongoing cost, and where the unit can actually live. Getting this wrong means buying the right sauna for the wrong location. Electric is the most common in modern home installs, and it's what I personally run. The reason is simple. I can turn my sauna on from my phone anywhere in the world. It connects to a 240 volt circuit. It's the easiest to permit, the easiest to maintain, and the easiest to live with long term. Electric heaters typically run $1,000 to $3,000 unless you're going really high end. If you're going to use your sauna regularly, this removes friction from every session. Wood burning is for a very specific kind of person. Nothing else replicates the smell of the wood, the sound of the fire, and the ritual of starting it. But the installation is a different conversation. Wood burning is genuinely hard to configure indoors because the chimney has to vent outside. The realistic setup is an outdoor sauna where the stack goes straight up out of the unit. So if you want wood burning, the best choice would be to buy an outdoor unit, as the heater cost in that is that same $1,000 to $3,000 range. However, gas units are quite different. The honest argument for gas is that it only makes sense if you don't have stable electricity. But if you do, there's no real case for putting a gas-powered sauna inside your home. Gas units are also a little bit more expensive than electric, partly because they're harder to find and source. Section 3. The shape it comes in. This matters more than most buyers realize because this makes the difference between something you're going to actually use every day or something you just pass by on your way out the door to the gym. Barrel saunas are outdoor first. The round profile naturally circulates air through the space without needing any extra venting, which is the functional reason the shape works, not just the aesthetic one. Some of our customers have installed them indoors as well, but the barrel sauna is built for the outside. The entry price for these is around $5,000, all the way up to $15,000 to $20,000. Cabin and cube saunas are the rectangular builds. They can fit indoors or outdoors. They match most home aesthetics, and the price range is pretty wide, $5,000 to $6,000 on the low end and $20,000 plus up at the top. Most of what you'll see in showrooms fits in this category. Now, the pod and egg-shaped saunas, like the one we're sitting in now, this is more of an architectural statement piece made as a design language for a property, not just another thing to have in the backyard. The price floor for these is much higher than barrel or cabin saunas, with a starting price of around $8,000 to $9,000 and running up to $20,000 plus. Traditional indoor builds, on the other hand, are custom carpentry inside the home. Finishing out a home gym, completing a high-end bathroom, or built for someone who doesn't want to walk outside in the winters. These start as low as $5,000 for a basic build, and there's really no ceiling to the price if you're going for something fully custom. Sauna tents are worth mentioning. We don't carry them just yet, but we are researching the quality options in the market. The genuine case for them is that they are a lower cost entry point if you're not ready to commit to a permanent unit, and they've got the benefit of portability if you wanted to take them on a camping trip. It's not the same experience as a real cabin, but you get the idea. Sauna blankets are the one I'd skip entirely. And not because of the heat mechanism, it's the experience. Sitting in a sauna means sitting in a room, breathing open air, and sweating in a space. Whereas with a blanket, you're really just wrapping yourself in heat, which isn't the same thing at all. So if the blanket price is what's attracting you, I'd suggest looking for a tent or an entry-level infrared so you can get a more authentic experience. If any of this seems interesting to you, most of what I've covered is available at My Sauna World. Links below if you want to see what real units at each price point look like. Section 4, the cultural and specialty variants. Now, a few sauna types get categorized as their own thing when they're really just a travel experience or a feature add-on, and it's worth knowing the difference before you buy something. The Russian banya and the Turkish hammam are talked about a lot. The banya has the Venic branch ritual and the birch leaf slapping and the cold plunge afterwards. The hammam is steam-based, has a marble surface, and a wet-cold contrast bathing tradition. They're both incredible, but they're basically vacation experiences for a typical US homeowner. You're not installing a real banya in your house, you're flying somewhere to go do it. Now, halotherapy or a salt sauna, this is a category that gets most aggressively marketed as its own type, even though it isn't. Adding Himalayan salt to the walls of your sauna can help purify the air. The salt gives the room a calm amber glow when it's lit up. That's a beautiful add-on, but that's all it is, an add-on. You don't buy a salt sauna. You buy a real sauna and add salt walls during the build, and relative to the cost of the unit, the upcharge is pretty minor. When it comes to finished saunas, we're basically talking about the traditional format that I described earlier. If someone is selling you a finished sauna as a separate category, they're basically using the term as a marketing strategy. Which one actually belongs in your house? Now, to decide which one to buy, there are 4 decisions to make, and the order they happen in matters more than the decisions themselves. The heating method comes first. You need to choose between traditional, infrared, or hybrid. This is the foundation because it determines the physical experience, and most people make this call based on whatever sauna they sat in a hotel or a gym once. But you want to do your research before deciding, because it makes it a very different experience. Space comes second. Once you know the heat method, the unit has to fit where you're putting it. So you're going to need to measure the square footage, ceiling height, the electrical access, ventilation, the weight load, etc. Next comes the budget. And this is where you need to be really honest with yourself before you fall in love with a specific unit. The range across everything I've covered goes from under $2,000 for an entry-level infrared to over $100,000 for a custom traditional build. So you want to set the budget before you start exploring. The last decision you have to make is indoor versus outdoor. But it's more decisive than people expect. Wood burning effectively forces the decision to be outdoors. Pod shapes almost always go outdoors. Cabin and traditional builds can go both ways, but knowing where to put the unit before you choose the shape prevents a lot of problems. One thing that doesn't belong in this framework at all, the frequency of use. People ask me constantly whether they should buy something lighter because they only plan on using it a few times a week. That's the wrong way to look at it, because you need to buy the right unit for your space, your heat preference, and your budget, regardless of how often you'll use it, as you're paying for the experience. I use it daily to help with spinal issues and chronic inflammation. The ritual will be different from person to person, so when I tell you which sauna belongs in your house, I'm telling you from the seat of someone who uses one of these every single day, not just sells them. So now that you know every type, the next question is, which one's going to fit your budget? And that's a different decision than most people think. So click the video here. I walk through the best sauna at every price point in 2026, including the units I tell my own customers to look at first at each tier. That's the natural next step from this video. I'll see you there.